Right, so how many people we've got now. Okay, let's get into it. Recall, just a little show of hands if you're here because you have problems with recall, or you have got a new dog and you don't know where to start, or you are one of the unfortunate people who just cannot let their dog off the lead because they've got themselves into trouble before. Or thanks, Paul, Jeremy, Shona, Carol. Yeah, you're all here for good reason. Okay, so on behalf of your dogs, your own dogs, I would like to thank you for coming along, because I always say that recall is one of the most important disciplines, skills, however you want to describe it, that your dog needs to be able to live a free life. Okay, doing what I do for the amount of time that I've done it, I've helped over 9,000 people on a one-to-one basis. So I've visited many people who have all manner of different problems. And I've met many, probably hundreds of people over the years who have reported to me that they have not been able to let their dog off, sometimes in excess of 3, 4, 5 years. And that kind of pains me. The reason that they said, I can't let my dog off the lead, is because usually that person has had a scare in the past. The dog ran out the park, it ran across the road, it disappeared into the woods, and they pick it up from the police station the next day. And all these things that do happen in real life when our dog has not been trained. Okay, so rather than take the course of those people, understandably, have taken with regards to, that's it, my dog's not getting off the lead ever again, and that's really unfair to our dogs. Dogs aren't born to be on leads and collars. We put them on leads and collars for their safety. All right, but what happens when we don't get into the work to be able to do the work to give that dog the life that we want it to have, and you want it as well? And what happens is the dog doesn't get to, it doesn't get its enrichment time running around the park or the woods sniffing, because you know it won't come back. It's on a short lead all the time. The frustration builds up, it pulls on the lead. And then if we have a dog that's pulling on the lead and it's not relaxed, it's not expending the energy it needs to do, it becomes frustrated. Then we start getting other problems, dog reactivity, frustration. The dog won't sit still in the house. There's many knock-on effects to not being able to have your dog or train your dog to have a solid recall. Okay, I do have an online course. I know that there's some members, Clan Dog members here. Some have been with me for many weeks, months, and I know there's one or two here who have been with me for well over a year or so. And that's not because what they're learning is not having effect. It's because they liked the ability to be able to have a dog trainer in their pocket, if you like, to be able to come to with problems, because there's nothing set in stone. Okay, our dogs and our relationships are evolving all the time. And what I've found in the past is that people look at a certain training aspect, whether it be lead pulling, whether it be separation anxiety, and they kind of do the work and then they park it. They think that's done. You don't program a dog. Once we've trained a skill into a dog, it has to be maintained. And then we start living it. We start working it into our daily routines. Okay, so let's make a start on it. I think everybody is and it's going to come in just now. Yep, so I'm going to concentrate on this just now. So thanks very much for coming. Okay, the aim of my the online course, which you'll all get an option of looking at later on, I'll tell you about later on. And really what I'm doing tonight is trying to explain in words what I put in training videos, etc. The reason that I created this online training video, online recall training video, is because when a dog comes into my life, what I mean is a client calls me to say, Alan, can you give me a help? Whatever that help is, that dog has now come into my life, and I see it as my responsibility, for want of a better description, to be able to do the best for that dog so that it can have the best life possible. All right. The other thing, as I see quite regularly, is the human becomes very frustrated. And we have dogs for a good reason. Dogs enhance our life. When we get it right, the dogs enhance our lives, okay? When we get it wrong, dogs will be a pain in the backside, and it starts affecting your life. I can't do this with my dog because I can't go here because my dog. I can't go and visit my pal for a coffee in the coffee shop because I can't take my dog. All these hundreds and hundreds of things that I hear all the time. So we don't want a dog to be a negative in your life. We want it to be an asset, if you like. All right. Okay, let's look at let's strip it all the way back. So I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are in the world. I don't know what type of dog you've got, the age of your dog, the skill set of you, the skill set of your dog. So this is almost a general conversation with regards to that. Okay, so some of the things that I describe are not prevalent to yourself, but many of them will be. One of the first things I normally see is, and you will be able to resonate, I'm sure some of you will resonate with some of the things I'm about to talk about. How many times do you use your dog's name? Okay. If I was over there and somebody wanted me to come through to the neighbour room and they shouted, Allan, 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 I'd be shouting, what? You're not telling a dog to do anything. We overuse our dog's name. So let's talk about how we can get a dog to understand that noise that comes out of our mouth, the things that we call a word. That means come back to me as soon as you can, all right? And we have so many variables. Let's say that we use the word come, the obvious one, come, and the dog doesn't come, but you've already maybe trained your dog to come. And then we start putting our own human variables. Come, the dog doesn't come. Come here, Freddie, come this way, let's go. These are all common mistakes, okay? I can see Carol there smiling away, having a wee giggle to herself. I'm sure other people will be as well. This is a non-judgmental environment, by the way, guys, okay? I'm not here to finger point. I'm here to make people a wee bit aware and to help you, all right? So when you choose a word, what we call a word, a noise, always talk from the dog's point of view. When we choose a noise, that means when you hear this noise, this word, that means come back to me. We can never change it, okay? We can't dilute it. So if you have already been trying to recall your dog to the noise, the word come, for weeks or months, and it's not happening, you have to start afresh and start with a new word, because already that dog is trained to understand that when you say that thing, you don't do anything about it and it means nothing to me, all right? Now, it doesn't matter to your dog what that noise is. I've explained many times before with regards to how dogs perceive things. So if I wanted to recall a brand new puppy dog and I'm going to train that dog, every time you hear this word banana, that means run to me. Now that's ridiculous to you. A banana, that's a thing that you eat. It's not to a dog, it's just a noise, okay? So the point I'm making here is it doesn't matter what word you choose, it matters that you're consistent with it. You never change it, in other words, okay? Okay, don't preempt every command. I'm not going to use my dog's name because he's lying through there, and if I start saying Otto do this, he'll start doing things I don't want to. So I'm going to use the word Freddie, okay? So if we start preempting every command with your dog's name, so there's still no people coming in, then it's harder for the dog to understand. So Freddie come, Freddie sit, Freddie no, Freddie leave it, Freddie in your bed. Freddie come is all one noise. It's a name and a word to you, but to dog it's all one noise. So if you want your dog's attention, if your dog is sitting right next to you and is not looking at you, then I would use my dog's name. I would say, Freddie, wait for the focus to come to me and then give him the instruction I want him to do, okay? Not Freddie come. So if your dog is elsewhere, don't start saying Freddie come or Freddie, Freddie, Freddie. It means nothing. By all means, use your dog's name once to get his attention, wait for the focus to come to you, drop the name, and then just give you an instruction. We'll get in more detail to that in a wee minute. But choose your word and stick to it, all right? Excuse me, drink my tea. When you are living with multiple dog handlers, things that we call families, partners, we've now got multiple dog handlers, and as humans, we are not clones. You cannot replicate the word of your husband, partner, wife, girlfriend, son, daughter, whatever. We've all got various pitches in our tone. And you will find multiple dog handlers, what we call families, using different words. You will find husband says come, wife says come here, child number one says this way, let's go. So as a family or a couple, however many people have got an influential part in that dog's life, I want you to sit down as a unit, as a family, and write down the words on a bit of pen and paper that you are going to use to communicate with your dog. And for fun, everybody sign it at the bottom, because sometimes people forget. you will hear your loved one say, come here, and you will say to them, hang on, I thought we were going to use come. And they go, no, I thought we were using come here. But if you've written it down, they've all signed it, and you've stuck it in a fridge magnet in the fridge, you can say, there's a signature, come equals recall, okay? Important, it really is important to do that. Okay, what we're trying to do, remember, is build value and consistency with the word, so use it wisely. Do not bombard your dog with recalls all the time for fun. You know, there's an element, it's hard for me to explain, but recall, as I said, is the most valuable thing. We don't want to overuse it because we'll just piss the dog off. If you're out giving it a recall, eventually it's going to say plenty. And we've got to make sure that we pay the dog for when it comes back. There's got to be something in it for the dog, all right? So don't use it unless you know that you're willing and able to follow up your commands or your instructions, however you want to describe it. And never try to recall your dog. I wish I had £1 for every client that said, well, I tried to do this and I tried to do that. We don't try, we either succeed or we fail. So we're going to get to equipment and what makes you able to follow through in the first place, long line training, etc. We'll do it in more detail in a little minute. Okay, we start at home. Everybody has got a dog, including me, for great reasons, because they're the best exercise accessory we can get. We love our country walks. We love going out with our dog. I would feel really odd walking around a park. I've never had a dog in my life. What I mean is I've never been without a dog in my life. I just could not find myself walking around a park or walking around a hill on my own. I would just feel weird. I know that some people do. I always look at them a bit strange and say, why are you doing it for a walk? Why have you not got a dog? But what we do with that is we get a dog, and somebody else coming in, sorry. We get a dog and we think, how hard can it be, especially if we're new to dog, living with a dog. I don't say dog ownership. I don't own a dog. I just live with a dog. I've got a different view about it. But the long and short of it is, people who have never had a dog before, they think, I'm going to get a dog because it's a great thing to have. I can get me outside, I'll go for lovely walks. And they take the dog out, a young puppy out, they take it to the park, which is full of other dogs. It's full of distractions. There's kids, there's bikes, there's cars, there's everything going on. But at that stage, the dog doesn't wander far from you. You're letting a little pup off the lead. It's out for its first walks or first few walks, and it never goes far from you. Because at that stage, that dog needs you for security. It's not going to go far from you. And you kind of rest on your laurels. I don't need to do recall because every time I turn that way, turn that way, turn that way, the dog follows me. Brilliant. But that's not what's going on. The dog just following you because it needs you for security. As your dog grows in confidence and is exposed to all this area that you, particularly because we're all different, that you expose your dog to, is no longer new. It's no longer scary. The dog is growing in its confidence, and one day a dog will do something for the first time. You would maybe walk that dog for weeks or months in that area, and it's always with you. It never goes far. Then one day your dog takes off to go and see the other dog in the park, to chase the pigeon or the squirrel or whatever, and you think, oh my God, dog's never done that before. We've not lost anything, but that's the time you say, I should have been doing some recall training before now. That's where we're at with it, okay? So be aware of your environment. We start recall at home. And when I mean at home, your houses, your home, your living room, your kitchen is your training environment. It is your classroom, okay? Do not think that you're only training outside. I say this to clients. I was with a client today, a one-to-one client today, and out of 9,000 people have asked this question, I can count in one hand the amount of people have got it right. When I ask people, to be fair to our dogs, if we want our dogs to know a skill, then we have to teach them, yeah? So if I ask the question, when do you do your dog training? Not where, when do you do dog training? The vast majority of people will tell me, well, in the morning before I go to work, I take the dog out to the park and I do this, or I come home at lunchtime, or after work I do this and I take the dog out and I do X, Y, Z. That tells me that if you have specific times in your head that you're training, the rest of the time you don't think you are. So when you are in training mode, when you go outside for a dog walk, I'm going to be doing fetch work or heel work or scent work or whatever you do, and then you come back through the home, you cross the door, you close the door behind you, you take the lead off your dog and you switch off. And you think whatever goes on home doesn't matter. And you will find yourself, your partner, your family giving the dog a recall at times that you don't think matters. So let's say that you're all chilling out in the living room and your dog is in the corner and teenage child decides that we want to give the dog a clap. We do it all the time. That's why we've got dogs. And you say, Freddie, and Freddie looks, and you say, come. And Freddie doesn't come because Freddie's playing with a toy. What happens then is that the human says, Freddie's playing with his toy. It doesn't matter. I'll give him a wee clap later on. It's not important. So if you think about it, what I've actually been doing, you're training your dog. You're diluting that recall command, and you're training your dog to ignore you. So protect your recall. What I mean by that is tell everybody, your friends and family, your loved ones who come to visit, do not allow people to undo your good work, okay? When you chose your word recall, you must be willing and able to follow it through, and that includes everybody, all right? Okay, so you are training all the time is the message, especially in your home. The amount of time that you spend with your dog in the home in comparison with outside is massive. 90% of the time that you're interacting with your dog is in your home, other than the morning walk, the afternoon walk, the evening walk, or whatever, okay? So bear in mind, what happens in the house goes hand in glove with what happens outside. If you're giving your dog a come in the living room, just chilling out in the kitchen, whatever, that recall command that you're teaching your dog in a low distraction, low energy environment, when you have your dog's undivided attention because there's nothing exciting going on, and you teach your dog, when I say come, it doesn't matter if you do or not. And you do that dozens of times a day without really realizing it. And then we take our dogs into a high distraction environment, out in the park, through the woods, whatever, and we shout, Freddie, come. What chance have you got of Freddie coming back? Next to nil, because 20 times in that day, you've already told Freddie to come, or that week, or whatever. If Freddie doesn't come and you teach them, recall means nothing, all right? So please value whatever word that you use. Do not overuse it, and do not use it flippantly, okay? A recall is a recall no matter where they are. There'll be times you need your dog to recall. And if you have been spending lots of time telling them to ignore you, then that's what's going to happen, okay? Okay, so start at home. Little and often is the secret for dog training, okay? I know that we're all busy people. We've got work, we've got families, we've got all manner of stuff to do, but make sure that you understand that training a dog is and the clan dog members here will, I'm sure, will agree that I will bore the hell out of you with my expression rinse and repeat, which basically means how a dog learns. Dogs are situational learners, okay? So the more times we teach a dog, you do this thing and good things happen, we do it in short intervals, okay? Don't bombard your dog, as I said all the time. So you want to build this up over a period of time. I think the whole thing I'm trying to say, guys, is that we rush everything. Time is our enemy. But please, if you're going to rush anything else in your dog's training, please do not rush your recall. We've got to slow it down. You will get that lovely country walk, a relaxed country walk with your dog off the lead, walking through a wood, knowing that your dog will come back when you tell it. But you've got to do the work. You've got to be fair to your dog to say, this is how it's going to work. It could take you months, depending on your dog. If you've got a puppy and you're quite a skilled dog trainer, because by the way, you are all dog trainers. There's no other description for people like me. And I say to people, you've called the dog trainer, what do you do? Well, I'm an electrician. I said, well, with regards to your dog, when do you train your dog? Oh, I don't. I never train my dog. I took it to puppy classes a year ago. No, you're training your dog all the time. You just didn't realize it. So every time you interact with your dog, you're training your dog, a positive or a negative. Always be aware of that, okay? So little and often, don't bombard them with lots of commands. Keep it fun and keep it short. And keep the small wins coming along, all right? Don't forget, a dog training graph is like a COVID graph. It'll go up and down like that. Eventually it does go up, but you will have great mornings and then the dog's crap in the afternoon, or vice versa. You'll have a good few days and then the dog crashes. Do not, everybody kind of hangs on to the negatives. Oh, waste of time. And that's what happens. And then you give up. Oh, it's not working. I'll just keep it on the lead. It's not working. So don't do that. Just remember that like us, dogs have off days too, okay? So, and it can affect your dog's training, can be affected by your mood, your behavior. That's really important for you to know. So slow it all down, don't rush it, start in the home, and we've got to prove the behavior before we move on to the next environment. So a recall in your boring living room is a lot easier with a big sausage in your hand. It's going to be a lot easier than going to a wood with your dog off the lead and have a bit of kibble. See all the variables in between. We've got to prove that behavior in your first environment, let's say inside the home. And then as soon as you take your dog from inside the home to your garden, be aware that that environment's changed. The dog, let's say you've got a big garden and you've got birds tweeting and you've got maybe a neighbour's dog barking and you've got all the sights and smells and all the things that we don't know, that the information highway is going up your dog's nose, and that's a massive distraction. So do not try and take your dog into a new, more distracting environment until you've proved it in the lower distraction environments, okay? Don't rush it, slow it down. Okay, let's talk about your dog's reward hierarchy. We've got to pay our dogs for good behaviors, all right? That's what they want. And there's many benefits, many rewards for your dog. Some dogs are food orientated, yes. It's a great way to get your dog to learn something, but we don't want to go around the rest of our life with a bag of chicken hanging out our pocket, all right? This is just a way of getting the dog to understand the rules. Ah, right, I come back to you and good things happen. So let's look at that. If you're feeding your dog with tidbits and sweeties, as many people do, for just no apparent reason. You know, I've been in people's homes and they say, well, hang on now, Freddie's sitting by the biscuit cupboard, I better go and give him a biscuit. What for? You know, you're kind of devaluing. So my dog can get little tidbits throughout the day. He gets a tidbit just when he comes in from the walk. What does he get the tidbit for, though? Well, I don't know, that's just a routine that I give him. So we want to gather up all the benefits, your dog's benefits, because what benefits your dog might not necessarily benefit your neighbours or your mums and dads or whoever else is. You've got to get to know your dog. What makes your dog tick? So let's look at your police show, your custom show. There's the spaniel just found all these drugs in the back of a car, and if you watch the show, what does the dog get? A tennis ball. Now that tennis ball, you might just think is a ball, but actually our specialist dogs, our bomb dogs, our drugs dogs, etc., do not get paid until they have done their work. So if I was to give a drugs dog or a bomb dog its special toy because it really loves that tennis ball, if I gave that dog that toy before I go to work, the dog doesn't want to go to work because I've already paid it. So let's look at your dog's reward hierarchy. You will have maybe a dozen or so toys lying about the floor. Well, they're not viable because the dog can access them anytime it likes. But you might notice that that dog really likes its little elephant or its snake or its whatever that toy is. If it's really keen on something, remove it. Do not give your dog access to that. Keep that as our special ammunition for when you go out, okay? You are going to be the good guy. Everything good in your dog's life comes from you. That's why we want to engage with them and interact with them in the correct way at the correct time. Okay, so get to know your dog. Some dogs like chicken, some dogs like sausages, doesn't matter what it is. Try different bits and pieces. Some dogs are toy and play oriented, some are not. Let's find something. What can I give my dog that he or she really likes, and I'm going to take all that benefit away from the dog until it does something for you, okay? We all love our dogs, and love and affection is a reward for a dog. If your dog is sitting on your knee all day long, sitting watch the telly, and it gets pats and claps all the time, and it sounds a wee bit harsh, guys, okay, but I'm just telling you how it is. I restrict my love and affection. I don't stop loving my dog, but I restrict my love and affection when I'm bringing a dog through training because that's something that it wants. And if it gets it on tap for no apparent reason, then I'm devaluing that. I want to really, I might ignore my dog, my young dog under training. Yeah, I'm going to say ignore it completely, but what I'm talking about is I'm not showering it with love and affection and sweeties and tidbits and having access to the ball. Then I've got nothing left to give it. I need to be able to give that dog something for the things I'm asking it to do, okay? So find out what really makes your dog tick, remove it, and use that as a reward for actions that you're asking your dog to do, okay? Let's look at your training environment. Again, I've kind of touched on it before, but it's something that a lot of people do not see. They do not look at the environment from the dog's point of view. All you see is a beautiful river and nice park and trees, etc., etc. Think, if I was a dog, what am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I looking at? What is interesting to me? And if you flood your dog with distraction, with old senses, you are farting against thunder trying to get your dog to pay attention to you because all these things are a lot more interesting than us, okay? which I was talking about where we train for environment. Make sure you're training in the right place is what I'm saying. Set yourself up and your dog for success, and make sure you aren't asking too much of them, because you and your dog will fail if you are. If you're trying to put your dog into train your dog recall in an area that's got hundreds and hundreds of distractions, then you're likely to fail, okay? So think about where you're training and what level of distraction are you asking your dog to deal with. Remember that you shouldn't add more distractions into your training until you have the solid recall in that first environment, your living room, then the garden, then an open park with no dogs in it. And then we start looking for different adding on distractions so we can improve the behavior. And that will take some time. There's a big thing I'll keep harping on about. Slow it down. Don't have unrealistic expectations of your dog. You're being unfair to your dog, okay? Okay, your environment will change. I can go down to a local park in Peebles on a 7, 8 o'clock on a Monday morning when it's peeing the rain, and I'll have that park to myself. No dogs, no people, nothing. I go to the same place and on a Sunday afternoon, on a Sunday, and I've got people having barbecues, there's dogs running free, there's kids on bikes. It's the same place, but it's a completely different environment. So don't be, as humans, we're habitual animals. We do the same thing all the time. We become boring to our dogs. They know what we're going to do. We take them to the park, and it just becomes into this sort of mash. So try to always look at things from your dog's point of view. Have a look at that environment. If you always go to the park and one day you go to that park and you think, holy hell, there's bloody dogs, there's people, there's everywhere, turn around and go. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm here now, I'll give it a go. Because all you're going to do is undo the work that you've done before, okay? Okay, so one step at a time. Prove the behaviours before you move on to the next environment is what I'm saying. Okay, how do we communicate with our dog? We think that our dogs understand everything that comes out of that. And believe me, I talk gobbledygook crap to my dog at times that it doesn't matter. You better have been chasing out. I heard you sleeping, he's dreaming, he's barking, and I'll just talk rubbish to him. I'll start telling him what's going in his dinner. You want biscuits? Do you want an egg tonight? All this rubbish that comes out of my mouth, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't really matter then. I don't do that when I'm working him. He's off the lead. He understands I'm very quiet, and anything that comes out of my mouth, I'm talking to him. So think about it. You go outside with your dog as a couple, as a family, with friends or whatever, and you're in the park and you're having a wee blether, and the dog is hearing all this white noise, just this rubbish coming out your mouth. Well, it's not rubbish to you and your pal you were talking about. As far as the dog's concerned, you're just blethering. This noise is coming out all the time, and you throw in a recall command, and it just goes into the wind. Okay, so be aware that when you're talking to your dog, you're not just using that. Okay, dogs are expert at reading our behaviors, our body language, our posture, and we need to use that to help the dog understand what you're asking it to do. Let's look at how you deliver your verbal. If I was to shout to a dog, come, come, it's receiving it completely different in the head, and I said, come, almost like a do it. Also, if I went to a dog, come, is that inviting? It's the same word I've used, but I've used it in different tones. Now, that's why I say to people, take the emotion, your emotion, out of dog training. Because if you're not aware, if you're not mindful of your actions, how you deliver things, and you're not aware of what you're doing, as many people don't do, then your vocal cords change. Let's look at man in the park because time's our enemy. We've got 20 minutes to let the dog out for its pees and poos in the morning before he goes to work. And he lets the dog off the lead because it normally comes back. And he shouts after the rain, right, I better go back and get ready for work. And he shouts, Freddie, come. And Freddie doesn't come. And then you hear him go, come on. You'll change the noise. You'll change the instruction. Just in case, you'll start adding on the name, Freddie, come on, let's go. And all these things. But now the tone, the vocal cords are changing. Come on. Yeah, not inviting. That's why I say take the emotion out of it. Same tone. So when we use clickers, for example, a clicker, you cannot vary how that thing clicks, click, click. It never changes tone. That's why clickers are good in so much as that you can't change the variable, you can't change the noise, you can't change the words. But you can still achieve that goal by being mindful and aware that that's the noise that I deliver. Remember, it's a noise, not a word to a dog. Come is received completely differently, okay? There's still people coming in here, excuse me, let them in. So body posture is what I'm going to be talking about. Your dog watches you and examines you and studies you far more than you examine and study your dog, right? Body posture. If you are standing upright and you're a big guy or a woman or whatever, and you're belling at your dog, come, it's not very inviting. If you squat down, I know some people got dodgy knees or whatever, but I'm just talking generally. You squat down, you open arms, and you're saying, come, 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 and the dog comes to you, and we get all excited like a 10-year-old on Christmas Day. Oh, you're a beauty. Then that's engagement. That's why the dog wants to come back to you. Yes, we can mark and reward that behavior with food tidbits or a tug of war if you've got a terrier. That's the dog's outlet. Why am I coming back? What's in it for me, says the dog. So do not, when you're in training, do not take it for granted. You'll get to that later on in life. But for the time being, when you're training, recall, make sure there's something in it for the dog. That's what I was talking about, your dog's reward hierarchy or your love and affection or its favorite toy or whatever. Okay, right. Body posture is important. When I try to take a picture of my client's dogs, I usually take a wee picture at the end of it. Of course, I squat down on my hunkers to take a picture. Rather than looking down on the top of the dog's head, I want it to be that way. Of course, as soon as I squat down, the dog doesn't stand still for its picture. It comes to me, and I'm not saying anything because my body posture says, come to me. Try it. When you're in your home and your dog is, I'm not talking about sleeping in his bed, but your dog is active enough, he's awake, and just you slide off your seat, reach the tee onto the floor, say nothing, and watch what happens. The dog will come to you. What are you doing here? What are you in my street for? What are we up to? So we need that level to be able to come down into your dog's level to encourage it to come to you. Okay, I'm not going to go into whistles and stuff. That's a completely different advanced or more advanced side of things. Let's keep the basics just now. So start building body posture into your training. Be aware of what your body is saying to your dog, is what I'm saying. Use it at the same time as your recall word and see how this can help you, especially when you start working at distance with your dog, okay? If you're unable to bend down, then perhaps try adding another body language element, like opening your arms out wide. So if you can't bend down, you've got knackered knees, whatever, come, come, come. That signal that the dog is reading means come back to me. So adjust and adapt to your own levels, if you like. Okay, a lot of people think that using a lead is only for your dog when they're out on the side of the road, traffic or whatever. No, I talked before about willing and able to follow up your commands. And the biggest thing that people miss out, which I'll come into more detail in a minute, is long lead training. Okay, people go from puppyhood, my dog doesn't need I don't need to do recall training, as I said before, because the dog always hangs around me when it's young and it's insecure and it needs you. And then you think, great, and they take the dog to the park and they take it through the woods and they let the dog off, and then all of a sudden it's going to see a pigeon or squirrel, woof, off it goes. And all we're doing, guys, is we are gambling that the dog does come back. We're gambling that it doesn't run across the road. We're gambling that it doesn't get itself into trouble. And we're gambling, by the way, and it's something I do harp on about, that your friendly, lovely dog runs across to see another dog to go play. Believe me, this is going on, and I'm sure as dog lovers yourself, you've just seen it or suffered it. I use that word deliberately. Somebody else's dog, friendly dog, comes running up to your dog, and that dog's on the lead. If you see a dog in a lead, and your dog is off lead, and your dog has got no recall, and you can't stop your dog, and it goes to see that dog, and it gets chewed up by this reactive, aggressive dog, because that's why they're on a lead. Yeah, whose fault is it? Because this is what happens in the park. People start saying you shouldn't have a dog like that here. That person's got their dog under control. It's your dog that had freedom to run across, and you do not have the skills, and the dog didn't have the skills to say, do not go to that dog, come back to me. So there are many, many things that can happen, guys, okay, when a dog is free to make its own choices, is really what I'm saying, okay? So using your lead at home is you're able to follow up. You can use a long lead, you can use a washing rope, you can do anything you want. So if in a garden, you have got your dog 5 yards away from you, and your dog is attached to a long lead, and you squat down in the garden and you say, come, and the dog comes to you, brilliant. You can give it reward, you can give it freedom by giving it a play with a toy, you can give it food, any rewards that you're going to be giving it. If your dog chooses, no, I'm looking the other way, you can when I talk about checking your dog, you're not yanking your dog. It's almost like somebody tugging your sleeve saying, hey, excuse me. It's not pulling them in, roping them in like a fish either. All you're saying, hey, the dog will get your attention and then you'll find, excuse me, it will come to you. Okay, come, it's not coming. Look, check, come, then it comes to you. What you're saying is I still have control. You're teaching the dog. Just because you're 5-10 yards away from it, I still have that control to be able to follow it through. Okay, that's important. So start using your lead or your long line at home as well. You can do with a lead in the kitchen, even if your lead's only 1.5, 2 meters along, whatever. Come, start using the rules of the game. Distance is the last thing we add on. Okay. Long lines. Hands up if you know what a long line is, and I'm not talking about extended leads. Yeah. Hands up if you use it or have been using it. Okay, so there's a few people here who have not been using them. Okay, that's cool. That's what you're here for, to learn. If you don't know what a long lead is, please do not get it mixed up with an extended lead. Okay, I'm not going to harp on about what pros and cons of an extended lead. Extended leads tend to be a bit of a, people buy them or use them because, well, my dog's not got recall, but I wanted to have some freedom. All that's happening there, guys, is the dog is never going to get used to feeling nothing completely. An extended lead has got a spring-loaded recoil on it, and the dog is always aware of something attached to it all the time, okay? A long line is able to, you can hold it. If your environment changes, if you're in a big open park and you're confident enough that the dog has got enough skills and engagement with you that you don't need to hold it, you can let the dog drag it, okay? If that environment changes because a dog walker walks into the park with half a dozen dogs running about, you think, oh, I know what's going to happen here. You can scoop down and pick up that long line, okay? So it's a variable. But a long line training, let's get used to understanding that, again, there's so many variables to this. I've been doing it for so long now that I've got a very good technique that I can use a long line with a dog on a collar. There are certain types, very occasionally, but I wouldn't. I'm talking about a really powerful dog, 35, 40 kilo dog that has serious power in it and it wants to do Mach 2, takes off. If I'm holding a 30-foot long line at the very end of it, that dog who's sitting next to me who decides to take off will be up to maximum speed within about 10, 15 feet. Now, what happens is if the dog's wearing a collar and a long line attached to the collar, it's now at full pelt, it's going to do something dangerous, and I'm holding on to that. One, obviously, the dog could well get injured because that sudden jolt when the line comes to, it runs out of line, is all in the neck. Woof, we don't want that. The other thing being is you could be injured, you could be pulled down. So I, rather than me teach you or try to teach you in words, which I can't, it's all in the training video. If I try and teach you in words the technique of being able to use it in a line and collar, then somebody could get hurt, and I don't want that. So the reason I'm saying is that if you have going to be using long line training, then I suggest you use a harness, especially for big, powerful dogs, okay? Because if it does reach the end of that 30-foot long line and is going at full pelt and it's weight and it's attached to a harness at the back, then the dog is not going to be injured. Still a good chance you're going to get pulled over or something, but I'm talking from the dog's point of view, okay? Okay, so that's equipment. The only really things you need is your reward toy, your reward squeaky ball, its wee elephant, some food, your love and affection, and your excitement. Because when your dog comes back to you, because that is the biggest skill a dog needs, I'm going to get really super excited. I hate that expression. I don't know why I just said that. Super excited. Rubbish. Don't like it. I'm going to get really excited, right? Okay, and then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go on forever about it. Dog comes in, that's a good boy, he's clever. Throw the ball, there we go. Reset, start again. Give your dog some downtime, give it 5 or 10 minutes, do another one. Start quartering, zigzagging. When the dog, because dogs give us behaviors that we want all the time, but if we've not asked the dog to do it, we forget to say thank you. For example, if we want a dog to be nice and calm in the house, and we're saying, right, I want you to lie in your bed, and when we say to the dog, go to the bed, and the dog goes to the bed and you say, good dog, or you give it a tidbit. Because I asked you to do it and you've done it, I'll say thank you. But what we forget to do is that we watch our dogs, we don't observe our dogs enough. And you maybe, if you've been observing your dog and your dog chooses of its own accord to go to bed, I would mark and reward that behavior. Because when we say thank you to a dog for a behavior, it's going to do it more. So you see your dog just wandering across and putting itself in bed. And you think, well, I didn't ask to do it, so why would I say thank you? You do. You want to be able to say, good boy, good girl, whatever, all right? And this goes for recall too. So if you're quartering on a long line and you're rather than walking a big, boring straight line, because that's what happens, we become boring, dog switches off and it looks for other things to do. Usually the other things that the dog wants to do are things that we don't want it to do, all right? So don't go on that lovely country walk or in the park in a big, boring straight line or circle. You're always walking forwards, okay? Do a bit of quartering, turn 5 yards here, 20 yards that way, 15 yards that way, and you're always walking away from the dog. So let's say that you're in a park, your dog's in a long line, and your dog starts wandering away. It's at the full length of the line now, and I'm not going to be towed along behind the dog. I'm going to make a turn away from the dog, and I'm going to say, watch, or another word noise that you choose. To me, watch means, look, we're turning. It's not a recall for me. A recall is when I'm standing still and the dog comes to me here. If I use the word watch, it's to get the dog's attention and look, we're going this way. It keeps your dog engaged with you in that kind of 30, 40 feet sort of circumference of you, okay? When it reaches that boundary, I'm going to turn away from the dog and call it. Now, we're talking about recall here. If your dog is it's standing looking at something, it's just standing still and it's looking at a dog 100 yards away, it's just standing still, it's not doing anything bad, and you're still walking, allow that distance from your dog and you as you walk away from your dog, allow that distance, but always kind of look over your shoulder. At some point, either your dog's going to lift its head to go, where's mum, where's dad? And they look, and they start coming anyway, don't they? But because you've not said, come, you think, oh, well, how do I say thank you for that? If your dog is naturally starting to turn around and come towards you, reverse train. Turn around, squat down, and shout, come. The dog's coming to you anyway. It's a chance for you to reinforce. That's what I want you to do. The dog was coming. It wants to come to you. Squat down. Come, come, come. There's a good boy. Off we go again. Reset. Okay? So you're aware of that. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Cool. Okay. Let's look at how we can help with a training partner, whether it be a family member or a friend. Family member or training. I actually put a little post on tonight, the one-to-one I was doing today, and I was acting as the training partner. But I'm sure we've all got a friend or a loved one, family member who can help us with this. So let's look at how we do it. We have the dog's favorite toy, its favorite food, its rewards, and I am your training partner. And we go to this a correct training environment, shall we say? And I'm going to ask you, you're the dog handler at this point. I'm the son, husband, it doesn't matter. The person holding the dog has nothing to do with the dog, okay? All I'm doing is I'm a tree. I'm just keeping the dog here because the dog will want to follow you. And I want to try and create some distance between the dog and you so that it can recall. Again, if anyone's on Facebook, have a look at the Clan Dog post tonight. It's a very 5-second short clip, all right? So I'm holding the dog. Do not ask for your dog for a sit stay, because if the dog has that, that's great. If your dog doesn't have a long stay, it's not got that skill yet, then just ask somebody, you hold the dog there. I'm going to walk 20 to 30 yards away with the dog's toy, and I'm going to say, look what I've got. I'm going to walk backwards, and the dog's going, shit, you got my toy. Where are you going? I want to come with you. But the person is holding the dog solid. Then I'm going to get some distance away, 20 yards, 30 feet, whatever you want. And I'm going to give a signal to me. You're going to give a signal to me to say that I'm about to call the dog. It could be a simple hand in there. And then you shout, come. You bend down, you open your arms, you start recalling, and your training partner just simply lets go that long line. And the dog will take off in a straight line right towards you. Some people, or some dogs, I beg your pardon, some dogs will come so fast they might run past you. If that's the case, as it runs past you, you can gather up that long line because you're now regaining control of the dog. Okay? But if it comes straight to you, good dog, good girl, whatever you want, get excited about it. I can't get guys to do it because you're all too bloody macho, but I don't care about that because I'm training a dog and that's all that matters to me. All right? Okay, so get excited about it. for just a few seconds and then stop. We have to get the dog to understand that great things happened when I came back and I got rewarded for it, and then we reset again. If you're cuddling the dog and saying thanks for the next 5-10 minutes, then it does, it just becomes a bit of a mess. So we've got to get the dog to understand when I come back, and then we're nice and quiet again. Okay, don't keep praising the dog. He's a good boy. You done it 5 minutes ago. Okay, it's got to understand that's what I got praised for, and then you go quiet again. Okay. We talked about equipment. Let's choose a long line. Okay, a long line pro usually about sort of 10. I use a 10-meter one. It's about 30 feet. You get them off Amazon. Not expensive, 10 or something. I don't know, something like that. But also remember that the long line I've got a few obviously because I'm a trainer, but the long line I would use for a fully grown Labrador or whatever is not going to be suitable to a long line for a wee terrier teacup. Because that long line, if it's dragging through the grass, getting wet, it's gaining weight as well, okay? So don't go and buy yourself a big horse lunging rope and expect your wee terrier to be able to pull it around. It's just applying common sense. What is going to be, what's my dog going to be able to drag around if need be? If you've got a big, powerful dog, yeah, you can get a big long lead. If you've got a very small dog or a young puppy or whatever, don't be asking it to, because it'll just sit still saying, I can't move. I can't move this, all right? So make sure that your equipment is suitable to your dog is what I'm saying. If you have a big, powerful dog and you have this kind of web, this long lead web, whatever, you might want to consider a pair of gloves. Because I've had other trainers or other clients rather in the past who said, well, I tried a long line, but I got rope burns. Yeah, I know that can happen. I've had it many times. I end up my backside many times as well. I know how long lines can be a bit of a girdle. You just have to be aware of it. But don't say, well, I'm not using a long line again. Get yourself a pair of gloves, okay? And get your technique right as well. Okay. So I want you to ask yourselves, can you answer yes to any of the four, or yes to the following questions? My dog is coming to recall, the recall word, first time, every time, at home and in my garden or a very low distraction area. The answer is simply yes or no. Yes, in my house and in my garden, every time I say come, the dog comes. It's either a yes or a no. I've stuck with the previous exercise in the course for last week or longer if needed consistently. I'm getting success every time. It's either a yes or no. I've identified the next step environment, which might be a quiet area of a local park or a green outdoor space somewhere that I can use. I'm planning on setting myself up for the dog for success. Yes, now what I'm trying to get to, guys, is ask yourself, can I prove the behavior before I move on to the next exciting, more challenging for your dog environment? If you can't do it in the garden and you can't do it in your home, then you're nowhere near ready to be going out and expecting your dog to recall in a high distraction zone. That's all I'm asking you to do. Be aware. What stage am I at? What stage is my dog at? Okay. Do not ask them too much. If you feel the need to go for all the country walk, then use a lead, use a long line, whatever. Do not give your dog its complete freedom, because it'll default to being a dog and it will chase and it will disappear and it'll get itself into trouble. Okay. The only trouble with long lines is when you try and walk out your dog in a long line through a wooded area, it's going to get wrapped around the bushes, etc., etc. So you're probably training in the wrong environment. And I use the word very deliberately, but carefully, but selfishly, you want to go and walk in the woods with your dog. Yeah, you'll get there, but your dog's not ready for it yet, okay? And I don't want you, everybody, to revert back to the, well, my dog's giving me too many scares just now, so you're never going off the lead. What have you lost? What you should be doing is saying, okay, well, I'm not going to let you off the lead just now so that you can get off the lead later on, as opposed to the amount of people I've helped and seen to say the dog's never been off the lead for months or years. Then it becomes really problematic, all right? Okay, there are other methods and stuff which I can only really demonstrate in video format, and that's actually part of the training video which I've created, which again I'll send you a link, because everybody here and everybody who's registered will be getting an email tomorrow sent out to you, and it's just a link to the course itself if you want to take it. But there are other techniques if you're on your own in regards to restrained recall. And what I mean by that is I try to explain in words, me being the training partner and just being an anchor, a tree, if you like. There are other techniques and ways, if you're on your own, how you can still gain that effect and have the recall whilst you're on your own, using a long line and using something which again is demonstrated visually. And you'll understand it more in the video if you choose to take that on board. Okay, it's somehow to handle big distractions. At some point, you'll have to take the plunge and start training your recall around those bigger distractions if you don't just wander into them anywhere, okay? The ones that really test your ability, their ability to listen to you. So that's why I'm saying I don't want you getting frustrated or giving in. So I would rather you trained in the right way, in the right environment, at the right speed, if you like, so that you don't get frustrated and give in. I don't want your dogs to be one of these dogs that I've met many of them many times before, where they no longer get off. All right. So we need to do it in small behaviors. So you're working up to the big distractions. Always think living room compared with a park full of kids and other dogs, completely different. Yes, your dog can listen to you in the living room. No, he can't listen to me in a park with other dogs and all the other stages in between. Okay, so try and identify in the local area where that is and what that is. Take your time doing this. All right. Okay. What's your dog's excitement levels? They will change. If you know your dog and you can read your dog's body language and their excitement levels, they might be vocal dogs. They might start losing focus on you because there's other things to focus on. Look at your dog when you're training. Don't look where you're going and enjoy the lovely scenery. You are training at this point and you're looking at your dog is the most important thing. If your dog starts to show signs of hyperarousal, get out of there. Okay, it's just guaranteed to go wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying, went to the park, as I said before, but my God, that place is mayhem. I'm out of here. I'm going to find somewhere else to walk my dog on that day. Okay, so we only move to your next distraction level as and when you're ready. Stay positive at all times. Always remember your COVID graph. Dogs do have good days, bad days, great afternoons, good weeks, bad months, whatever. Take your little wins and remember them, all right? Okay, does anybody have any specific questions? If you do, stick your hand up or just unmute yourself and fire away. I'm sure there'll be somebody has, there's 2 pages of people here, so I need to flick back between anybody here. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions, is that right? Oh, Paul, are you, okay, Paul, if you just unmute, do you know how to unmute yourself, Paul? Paul Helm? No, you're talking, but I mean actually unmute, unmute on the computer. I'll just press a little button that says ask to unmute, Paul, okay?
There we go.
There we go, I can hear you now. Great, how can I help you, Paul?
Well, we did get our little dog a bit of training, and my wife and I were both told to get the same whistle, which he does respond to at times from the garden, doesn't he?
And the house.
And in the house. But from what you say, you should each have a different command.
No, a whistle just, I use a whistle for working a dog at distance. So for example, everything starts close, okay? So when your dog is sitting in the living room a yard or 2 away from you, you're not going to start blowing a whistle. Yeah?
Right, okay.
So you're going to start using your tongue, because that's what we do. We talk to, we're never always carrying a whistle with us, are we? So yeah. A whistle is an extension of a recall. So I said to you before, I'm going to start talking whistles, but here we are, we're talking about them. So if I use a verbal noise, come, a word, for example, and then I want that dog, once I've got that verbal command, come, because remember I said distance is the last thing we had on, and I want to now start teaching that dog a whistle command. So when you hear the noise come, that means get to me. Here's something else that means come to me, a whistle. Now, I use a whistle for different command. I've got emergency stop, which is a big long beep. Dog's running, bang, bang, its backside goes in the floor and it stops. What? I use a single peep to turn a dog. So if I'm working a dog through cover and I want it to go from there to there and back again and back again and back in, every time it reaches the extension of the area that I want to work in, I'll give it a single peep this way, goes to that side, beep, that way, and I'm walking forward and the dog's quartering, zigzagging all the time. Now I've got a recall whistle, which is beep, beep. Now, I'm down to 1 dog at the moment. I used to have 4 or 5 dogs, and when I was working on, I get my young son at the time, he's now in his 20s, but at the time he's, and I would say, right, you go and work Purdy and Dougal at the other end, and there's a whistle. Now you know what Dad's commands sound like. Yeah, Dad. I said, right, you blow the whistle like me. So I'll go beep beep for a recall and ask anybody here to replicate that with the same whistle, and they go hoo hoo. Dog doesn't listen to you because it's a different noise. It's the same whistle, but it's like Kate Winslet at the end of bloody Titanic. Okay, so you have to practice your own whistle. Do you understand that? So just because I actually have on more than one occasion, and I'm sorry, but I love this stuff because it does make me laugh. I've had emails from people who say, Alan, I bought a dog whistle from a dog, but it doesn't work. What will I do? I went, take it back to the shop. No, I don't mean that. I can hear it, but the dog doesn't come back. And I said, have you trained the dog to? No, I thought a dog whistle, if I blow it, what, like you go in a park and you blow a whistle and you get 20 dogs because it's some sort of magical magnet? No, it doesn't work like that. So, okay. So to go back to what you're saying, Paul, if your dog is coming in from, I think you said your garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But it won't come into a recall command from you. It'll come into whistle, but not command. Is that right?
Depends on what mood is it.
That's what we're talking about, though. Okay.
Well,
That's what we're worried about.
What worries us? If the front door is left and he can get out, it'd be in the next county. We've had to chase him several times.
It's just gone.
And it's gone so quickly. So we bought one of these special gates so you can part open the door, which is great. But we're just terrified. When he does get out, it's across the road.
Come to the whistle.
No, it won't come to the whistle. Just totally ignores it, even though he responds to it in the garden. I mean, he's 4 years old. I hope he's trainable, but
Come on.
it's going to need a lot of effort.
Well, Paul, was he a rescue dog? You say he's 4 year old and
No, we do think he had a fright early in his life. We got him when he was little over 3 months old.
All right. Okay.
We think he was stolen, possibly, but we subsequently found out, in fact, he was born on a puppy farm.
Okay, but can I just pause you there a minute? Because you said he's now 4 year old and I hope he's trainable. But
Yeah.
you've had him since 3 months old and he's still wanting to make an escape bid and run. So have you had help? Have you done training?
We have had help.
We've just paid £200 for somebody.
Yeah, and we took him to puppy class, didn't we, in Napoli when we first got him?
Okay.
They said he was too nervous.
Okay, a couple of things. Puppy classes, I don't like them. I'll be very blunt and honest about that. I don't like them because your vet will say, and I've got 3 pals, personal friends who are vets, and I say to them, why do you keep telling people to go to these bloody puppy classes? Yeah, I know, Alan, but all we're doing about a puppy is exposing that dog to that dog's future life. Yeah?
Yeah.
And they call it socializing. So you went to puppy classes. When was the last time you took your dog into a Slippy 4 Scout Hall with 20 other dogs barking? Never.
No.
Because that's not real life, is it?
No.
When we expose a young dog to what your dog's life is going to look like, because my dog goes and play. I'm actually leaving right after here. I'm heading for Isla, and I've got speedboats to take back and forth from Isla and my dog comes with me. He's been on planes. He's been on, you name it. Doesn't matter. So somebody might be here saying, I take my dog to work. So they live in a town. That dog has got to get used to town traffic, on a bus, sitting in the office, under the desk. All the stuff that my dog doesn't do. And maybe yours don't. But so get back to the point is that stop thinking that when you go to a trainer, even me, because I say to people, you call me a dog trainer, I'm here to train you. I had a dog training school and I had 46 dogs every day for 10 years. I've seen thousands of dogs, okay? And people used to say to me, Alan, could you take my dog and keep it for a week, a month, sometimes 3 months, it was rehab, and train my dog and hand me back a trained dog. And in those days, I emphasized the word dog. I was a dog trainer. And I thought naively in those days, everybody had a dog, knew what they were doing, they just wanted me to do the hard work and then they would maintain it. So they would spend weeks and months training this dog. They would come and pick the dog and I would say, right, it's your dog ready, come and get it. And I would spend ages with them with the dog and they think, that's incredible. Completely different dog. Can't thank you enough, Alan. Thank you so much. And off they would go. They would phone me within a week, 10 days and say, Alan, the dog's not doing this anymore. The dog started doing that thing again. And I would say, what's it you're doing? And I would break down like this. And I say, that's no wonder your dog's doing this. Do you know what you're doing? So they thought the dog was some kind of programmable bloody thing. You're training all the time. You are the dog trainers. So I stopped doing that. People say, can you keep my dog? Pointless. I could hand anybody my highly trained dog and say, can you look after Otto for a week for me, please? Because I'm going on holiday. And I know when I came back, my dog would be loved, cared for, fed, watered, safe, great. But he's going to do something different because the dogs absorb and change according to their environment. So if I was to take your dog for a fortnight and he no longer runs out the front door, he no longer does this, that, and other, and I hand him back to you, do you think your dog will still run out the front door? Yes, he will. Because that environment is different. The rules are different. Some people have no boundaries in the home. So there's lots of stuff going on. So I'm just asking everybody here, do not think that your own dog trainer is going to train your dog. Because I could train your dog for a week and hand you back a fully brilliant dog with solid recall. And I hand it to you, but you don't know what you're doing. I don't mean that detrimentally. I'm just talking about the you generally. And if I don't train you how to interact with a dog, that is of no use to you. That week or fortnight with me is a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
So a dog handler, dog trainer, when you go to a class, for example, you should really be there to learn how, so you two can maintain their skills. That dog trainer, not a dog trainer in the world that can program a dog and say, there's your dog fixed. Just you carry on communicating in the way that you are, acting the way you are, but the dog will act different. It is impossible for any dog to act differently unless the human does, the you do. So when I go around, and I know there's a lot of people here who have had one-to-ones with me, but when I go into people's homes to train their dog, because that's what they call me to do, the vast majority, 90% of my efforts are concentrated on training the human. Helen, can I ask you to pop up just now? Helen is a clan dog member, has been with us for a long time. Am I right in saying that Jaeger, Helen's got a young Cocker Spaniel just now, and Jaeger was your first dog, is that right?
He is our first dog, yeah, first time parents.
Helen's been with Clan Dog for a long time, and she's gone from not having a dog, by the way, it's a Cocker Spaniel, and that might not mean a lot to everybody, but it's like, I always compare it to getting a Cocker Spaniel for a first dog. It's like passing your driving test and then going buying a Ferrari. You know, you just like driving a mini, mate. You think that's going to bend, that you're going to bend that thing. However, so I like many people, Helen got and she's been on a long journey, so I think Helen is a great one to explain to everybody now that how I've done very little training of her dog, but I think the vast majority of Helen's successes, and I do not take the credit for when people say to me, my dog's problem, whatever that thing is fixed, I take a little bit of credit, but only because that person has listened, they've watched my videos, they've come along the webinars, they've learned and they've honed their own skills because they are training all the time. Yeah. So I speak. Go on, Paul.
Could I ask just one quick question? Don't want to monopolise anything. We've thought of taking Dixie to one of these open spaces, secure open spaces. Would that be beneficial, do you think?
Well, all the Freedom Field does is a cop out. I'm not being negative about this. And if you, like, for example, I've had people who have rescued a dog, and it doesn't matter where it's from. I rescued a dog, a 3-year-old dog from Romania. It's a long dog, it's a sight dog, it's a hound dog. It's got lots of issues. It's had a really bad life, and they cannot get that dog really under control to be able to walk free as a dog. That's when I would say, okay, well, if you need to give your dog an outlet, go to a Freedom Field. What I don't agree with is people using these Freedom Fields as a complete cop-out for training. Yes, it's secure. Yes, you can get them for a tenner an hour, half an hour, whatever you do, I don't know. And your dog is the only dog in there. It's not socializing with other dogs. It's not learning anything. It's just getting physical exercise. But you can still use a Freedom Field for training, but don't take your dog to a Freedom Field just to say, well, there you go, if you bugger off and just go and do something, I'll run around or catch at the end of it and go home. Your dog's not learning anything, you're not learning anything.
No.
So I wouldn't say don't go there. And if you've got a certain lifestyle, you might have, some people might have physical ailments that I can't actually do the things that I need to do for my dog. So what I can do is I can take my dog and give my dog the best I can life to say, in a Freedom Field, I know you're safe, I know you're secure, go and run about daft, I'll throw a ball for you, whatever, but that's the best I can give you in life. Okay?
We've got a big garden, so he's got the freedom of that. So I don't know whether it'd be more beneficial than that.
But everything, okay, well, everything I've been saying as well, because your wee dog there, whatever, You know, we're not going to have a big, powerful dog. You could probably get away with using a collar and a light, long line and start doing that, okay?
I'll do that. We'll do that.
But, you know, if your dog is vying for freedom, as soon as that door's open that you're talking about, yahoo! Obviously, the danger, and we always err on the side of safety, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Right, Paul. So, Helen, I was just sort of kind of just asking there, just to and the reason I'm asking Helen, just to have a few words, whatever you want to say, is I don't want to disappoint people by saying, take your time, do not rush. The people who rush things and go into the next stage too early are the people that fail, and the people that give in, and the people that end up with dogs on leads for a long time. Though Helen's been, how long have you been with Clan Dog? A year and a half, 2 years or something, I don't know.
I think so. I think so. We had Jaeger on. We started late. We started when he was a year old because we didn't find Clan Dog until he was a year, and then, as I say to people, we actually thought we'd made a mistake getting a dog, and then it was a recommendation from a friend. And we had him on the long line for 13 months because his recall was really poor. So until we had reached a stage that we knew that he would come back, he did not get off the long line. He just didn't do it. And we got laughed at and people would make jokes. But as I always say, we are now away up the hills and everybody else's dogs are on their leads because they have no recall. So as Allan would say, you have to put the work in first because you're doing it for the greater good. And it does take time, and it is frustrating because everybody else has got their dogs off and they're saying, oh, you know, my little Trixie Belle's got perfect recall, and they haven't. They just haven't. And we had a terrible incident recently, I think it was about 6 months ago, where we were in the park, Jaeger and I were walking, and a dog shot across the park about 800 yards and attacked him for no reason. And the owner didn't have recall. You know, and that's what happens. And you have to train your dog so that for these incidences and for their safety. And that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, always remember, guys, I know that everybody's got a different age dog and different skill levels, different breed outlets, etc. But if we have a young dog, and I'm talking about a puppy, I'm talking about a dog at even 2 or 3 year old, whether you're a big-hearted person who adopts one or rehomes one or whatever, you've still got a dog for a long time. And I would rather have rather people limited their dogs' freedom and exposure to all the stuff we've been talking about, the ability to get themselves into trouble, in other words, for a short period of time to do the work, to get the skills, so for the vast majority of your life, you can have a free life, as opposed to, I'll give it a go, see what happens. The dogs, if they do get away with running across the road, if they do get away with, you know, all the stuff. I've had a local dog here that was last winter, was out for 10 nights, it got itself lost, and it was away out in the frozen hills. There was drones looking for it, there was mountain rescue looking for it. I mean, that's an extreme case. But as I said, we always take the risk of, I met a lady, in fact, Teresa might be here, another Clan Dog member who came through from the West Coast. I went with one-to-one with me, staying in a hotel, and she was staying in a dog-friendly hotel, and this was just yesterday, like the day before, who said that somebody in the hotel, his dog had got out of the hotel and it was running up and down the street. There was people, members of the public, running after this dog. They eventually caught it, but there was stopping cars, there was all manner of things. You know this goes on. If you haven't experienced it or suffered it yourself, you know, it does happen. So that's what we're trying to avoid. We're always just getting away with things, okay?
That's what he'd be doing.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Okay, thanks for that, Helen. Okay, does anybody else have any questions at all about? Hi, Shona, where are you? There we go. Shona, did you put your hand up there? If you ask you to unmute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, it's just about prey drive. I mean, I struggle with a recall mainly because of prey drive. If she sees a crow, it's mainly crows and birds.
What sort of dog do you have?
Cocker Spaniel.
How old is it?
20 months, 21 months.
Okay, have you had it since a pup?
Yes.
How much training have you done?
Sort of quite sporadic, to be honest. Just after I got her, it was a bereavement and things, and so I kind of struggled a wee bit. But I've had a one-to-one with you for like barking issues and other issues, and that's really going great. But the recall, as soon as she sees a crow, I mean, she's on a long line all the time, but
Yeah.
she's just off like a bullet, uncontrollable off.
No, I know that the fact that we cannot control the environment. As I said before, we can walk in an empty park and there's not a bird in the sky, there's nothing there, and it changes. And I can't say stop. I mean, if you'd said to me, you know, I'm going for a walk in the park, and the farmer's fields will either say it, I would simply say you're training in the wrong environment. But if you're in an empty park and a crow lands, we can't control that. That's real life. That's what happens. Okay. But it's just about how do we get a dog to engage with us? We want our dogs to be with us. So there's many times that people will give me a list of problems that the dog won't do this, it keeps doing that, whatever. And I look and I say, your relationship's wrong.
Yeah.
You become.
I think it's maybe, I think it's maybe a lack of engagement. You know, I've been working on that, but it is quite a problem. I can't see me getting her off a line because of it.
Okay, well, is your son named Duffus?
Yes, that's right.
Right, okay, I just got the Shona there now.
I'm
I'm
the daft one that got a Cocker Spaniel, a first dog.
Okay,
Honestly, she's really come on great since my one-to-one with you and other issues.
Shona's another, excuse me, because I'm people and dogs' names all the time. I did recognise it. I was there to connect the name there, but Shona's another clan dog member, so came to with a certain set of problems which you've been working on. You've succeeded with whatever. So really now we're just starting to fine tune about. I know that your relationship, and this is, I know we're talking an open forum here, and we're not pointing fingers. I know that we had to tidy up your relationship a little bit because of how. Yeah,
definitely.
And I speak to everybody here. Sometimes we are viewed by our dogs as good, kind, loving providers. But at times of high distraction, you're not a leader.
No, I'm too soft.
And that goes with many, many people, okay? So do not think that's a point at you, Shona, or at all. It's out of 9,000 people I've helped.
Yeah.
Probably the first thing I go to is let's sort out your relationship first. Dogs that are, and I always say that we can't be, we can be, I'm a big ginger mate around here, he's my best mate, okay? Every dog I've ever had. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for one particular dog a long time ago, but I'll even go into that. But the long short of it is, I love a dog in a way that a dog understands, okay? But I'm still that dog's calm, confident, consistent leader, not a good, kind, loving provider. Because I want my dogs to have the best life possible. I want them to go to the dog-friendly bistro, as opposed to the person says, I would love to have a pint in the beer garden, but I can't. Because he'll jump up, he'll steal food, he'll bark at dogs. Your dog stays at home and that person goes for a pint. I want my dog to understand that when I say something, mate, you've got to do that thing. That's it. And that's down to relationship. Because when we're living with our dogs all the time, some people live with their dogs in the bedroom and up in settees, and I'm not being hypocrite.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I know. You're not alone either. I'm sure there'll be other people going, oh, get doing, Freddie. That's when it happens, okay? But I'm not being a hypocrite, because when I finish here, I'm going to have a cup of tea in 5 minutes, and I'm going to invite my dog into the most important places where I rest. Up you come, pal, because I want a dog hug, yeah?
Yeah.
But we have to be fair to our dogs. One set of rules, because dogs don't understand exceptions. I get people saying to me, I'm serious, like, even the whistle thing blows my mind, but I get people saying to me, I want you to stop my dog jumping up in the settee after he comes in from a walk because he's dirty. I'm like, what? So what you really asked me to do is to explain to a dog, see if you've got dirty feet. You have to know the difference between when you can jump up and when you can't. Dogs don't know they've got dirty feet. Yeah, you're up or you're down, or you suffer a dirty settee or not. But you can't say to a dog, you know, here's an exception. So I make it rule. I put lots of boundaries in place so that I can remove those boundaries, like we as kids, or anybody who's got family here, as our kids grow up and they earn that trust, we remove that boundary. Yes, you can stay out later. Yes, you can go to that party. Yes, you can do that thing. Okay? It's far easier removing boundaries that you have put in than saying it's all going to rat poo, I better start putting boundaries in place. Then the dog's going, hang on now, I was having a great life and you start asking me to go in a crate now. No chance.
Yeah.
Or
there is a huge difference since the boundaries come in. Honestly, I mean, I can't thank you enough, to be honest. She's a different dog.
So go back to what I was saying with Helen. I do not take the credit because I have not trained your dog. You have trained your dog.
Yeah.
I trained you to change.
I miss her in the bed, but that's it. It's done. She's, you know, and it's made a huge difference to her behaviour and everything. She's actually interacting with me now. She's listening, you know, and she's not keeping
So
them.
all we're doing, Shona, is really kind of rebuilding that relationship. And remember, do not slide back. Be that Jekyll and Hyde. People might not know what I'm talking about here, but Shona and I have had a one-to-one. When I talk about being a Jekyll and Hyde to a dog, I'm not talking about being an ogre. I'm talking about being somebody that is a human to human. Might seem ignorant. Walk in, ignore your dog. You might feel bad about that. I said, don't. When your dog gives you something, has a good, I gave you love and affection then. All the stuff that I taught you about, maintain that, because our relationship with our dog is fluid. It's not fixed. We don't do something, and that's the dog, got recall, and we never have to keep that going now. You don't train a dog to do something and then not use it for a week or two and expect it to know it. We have to work it into our lifestyle. And as I said in the beginning, don't bombard. It's a hard thing for me to teach. People say to me, well, how much is too much? Well, I don't know, because it depends on your dog. It depends on the relationship. You should have to know your dog to say, right, I'm not going to bombard them every 5 minutes. But we have to throw in a little recall now and again. Don't throw in a recall once at the end of a walk. Your dog comes back, you put the dog in the lead and you go home. You might get away with that 1, 2, half a dozen times. And then what you've taught your dog is when I call you back, the party's over, pal. So one person goes all the way around the predictable route, all the way back, give the dog a walk, come back to the gate, beep, beep, or come, the dog comes on the lead, don't go home. One day you go, beep, beep, come, dog goes, nah, because let's go home time. I'm not ready to go home. Because what you should be doing is call the dog in and say, here you go, there's your freedom again. Off you go again. There's a reward for coming back. We mix and match. We keep the dog thinking all the time. What's the bugger going to do next? As opposed to, I know what you're going to do next, because you do the same thing all the time. We have to vary what we do. So we're throwing in a little recall for no apparent reason, because we need to be able to give that dog a recall when we do need it. Some people only recall their dog when they see another dog come in. What happens is that you go, come, and the dog comes back, you put the dog in the lead, probably quite rightly, because the other one's in the lead or whatever. But the only time they're calling their dog is when another dog comes, and they don't want the dog to run up to it in case it gets bitten or attacked or whatever, I don't know. But all of a sudden, what happens is the dog's now connecting. The only time you call me back is when a dog comes into the picture, and you'll find somebody, I've seen it dozens of times, come, and the dog is going, hang on, I'm not coming back, but there must be a dog here somewhere. Okay, that's why we have to be unpredictable. As humans, we're habitual animals, and the dogs study us, and they know what we're going to do before we do it. Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably book another one-to-one, because I have, the recall's been a long-term thing with me, and I think it is pre-driven related. So I'll sort that out.
So let's start thinking about. We'll contact me later on, and we can keep in contact with that, Shona. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Cool. Okay, Paul, you're back again. You got your hand up again. You have to unmute, my friend. Paul, you're still talking about you're not unmuted. I can't lip read, mate. All right, I got that one. Bye. Okay, mate. Okay. Anybody else? Anyone stick their hand up and unmute and give me a question? I think I've got another page here, so I might have to flick over to another page. Where is it? Okay. Maybe not. Where are we? Okay. Nobody else? Thank you very much. If Maria's hand is raised, where's Maria? Where's Maria? Okay, Maria.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi there. It's, your camera's off, but that's okay if you're sitting in your jammies. It doesn't matter. So just I can hear you though.
Okay. Oh, a minute. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Alan. Thank you. It's really interesting. I'm a first-time dog owner, so sorry if it's a very basic question.
Not at all.
So you mentioned that it's best not to overuse the practice to come during the training, but to do it little and often. Yep. So what's an effective way of doing that? What does that look like? Do you mean do it sporadically throughout the day? Don't do it more than 10 times a day? What would that look like?
I mean, I appreciate you're new to dog ownership, and I get that. We've all got to start somewhere or whatever, and these sort of things come second nature to me because, where have you gone? Where have you gone? There you go. What sort of dog do you have, and how old's your dog? How many people are in the home? What do you do with the dog?
There's 2 of us, myself and my son. I'm the main, I take care of the dog. It's a miniature poodle, 14 months. I've had him since he was 8 weeks.
Okay. Can I ask how old your son is? 14. Okay, so the reason I asked that, Maria, is because I consider if you'd said 4, then he's not a dog trainer. He's just, he's just a 4-year-old. If he's 14, he is a dog trainer. because he's living there and he will be communicating with your dog, okay? So go back to what I was saying earlier on, that everyone in that home has got an influential part in your dog's training. So the reason I asked how many people in the home is because you're saying, how many recalls can I give my dog? You might go out shopping, but then leaving your son at home with the dog, and all of a sudden you find he's playing with the dog and giving it recalls. We need to really be understanding that every interaction with the dog has a bearing on how they're trained, okay? So please do make sure that your son understands the rules that you're going to put in place, the verbal command that you're going to give for recall. We have to look at our dog's energy levels at the time. So your dog was how, 14 months, like you said, is that right? No.
Yes.
So you got a 14-year-old boy, 14-year-old lad, and a 14-month-old dog, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, pick your times, okay? So let's say, there's many papers being written called Ditch the Bowl, and we give our dogs food for nothing. Now, I give my dog his bowl of food for nothing now, but in training time, we're missing a scope, we're missing an opportunity. So people say to me, my dog's not food orientated, I won't come back for food. And I say, okay, well, when was the last time he ate? Well, just about an hour ago. Well, no wonder. How about missing out his breakfast and taking his breakfast out with him and making him work for the breakfast? You understand? So it's about reading your dogs. Now, your life will vary depending on your work, your family matters, when you're eating, etc., etc. So you have to pick your times when you've got a 5 or 10 minute window to do some concentrated training with your dog, okay? So, but always remember, you are training all the time. I'm not saying that you have to be doing things all the time, but if you're sitting, relaxing with your son in the evening, watching the telly, and you find your son saying, what's your dog's name?
Bonsai.
Bonsai. Okay, that's a cool name. Bonsai, come. You instantly switch on, my son is training my dog. So if Bonsai hears and understands that recall and Bonsai doesn't come, what would you do?
He always comes.
Perfect. What are you doing here?
I'm still learning a lot. Yeah, I'm learning a lot.
I'm just being funny. But so because you've got your dog, because you've got Bonsai in the home, it's a low distractions, nothing else going on, you've got a big chance of getting the dogs to do it, okay? To follow up that recall. So your next stage is to go outside and do it 1 or 2 and then drop 1 or 2 again. As the dog grows and matures and becomes more and more engaged with you, because you get your relationship right, they'll engage with you more all the time with very little effort from you. But in the early days, we really have to try to bond with that dog so he wants to come back to you. There's a big difference in making a dog do something as opposed to building a routine and a relationship with the dog wants to do something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Cool. Okay.
How do I know when the behavior is proofed and ready to move on to the next level of distraction?
Well, that's what I said earlier on, Maria. You don't move from your if you go from your living room to your garden's still secure, for example, and you say he comes back in the living room every time, brilliant. Now it's time to go out to the garden. And you go out to the garden and you say, Bonsai, come. Bonsai, come. Oh, Bonsai's looking at the pigeon. Then you're not ready to go out to the park yet. We've got to get in because Bonsai is distracted. So you prove the behavior in a low distraction, you increase by adding on other distractions, which you will get in your garden. And then we prove that behavior. Now he comes back every time in the garden. Now I'm going to go to the park, but I'm going to find myself a little quiet spot, quiet area of the park, as opposed to the other part of the park where everybody's running about, there's lots of dogs, there's bikes, there's all manner of stuff, okay? So that's talking about proving the behavior before you move on, is what I meant, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else at all? I'm not sure if there's any hands up. If not, then cool. I will wrap it up there. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. As I said, tomorrow, look in your inbox. If it's not your inbox, look in your spam folder. We will send a recording of this out to everybody. There'll be a link on there offering anybody a 7-day free, completely free trial to Clan Dog. Yes, it'll ask for your credit card details and it'll put them in, but it will not take anything off you from day 8. So I offer you all now, take your 7 days. If you don't want to spend £14 a month for a week or a month or whatever, that's cool with me. Get in there, look at all the 30 training videos, cancel on day 6 and it won't cost you a penny. All right. Everything we've talked about before is a video training course called Recall Made Easy, and I'm offering that to everybody for 50% off, which is what a member would get anyway. But as a thank you for coming along, Everybody who's registered will receive a copy of this. It's up to you if you want to use that resource. The course is yours for life. If you choose to buy it, it's only 24 quid, and you've got that for life. You can refer to any time you like. All right. If you choose to become a member, whether it be for the 7 days or extended afterwards, stay for a month if you want. It doesn't matter. Some people like Helen and others have been with me for a long time because they're committed and they've got issues that they want to keep going on. Some people stay with me for a month or two, get the problem solved, and then leave. I don't need a dog trainer anymore. Brilliant. That's what I do. Come in, get the help that you want, solve the problems that you want, and then, you know, they've got like a gym membership, isn't it? Maybe I need to one just now to lose a few pounds, but hopefully they won't go forever. So, okay, so thank you all for coming along. We're going to wrap it up there just now, and thank you all, and we'll see you again. Okay, thanks for your support coming along tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, folks. Thanks now. Good night.